Hi there, welcome to Bourbon Turntable. This is the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. Tonight, we have a cool show. We've done some shows in the past where we've talked about bass players, we've talked about lead guitarists in bands. Tonight, we are talking with drummers, the guys that, make the songs go, that keep everybody on time, even though they may not necessarily be punctual themselves. I don't know. We didn't get into that, but I've got with me Steve Gorman. Steve's been on the show a few times. He is known as the founder, one of the co-founders of the Black Crowes. He's been in bands such as Trigger Hippy and Bagmen. He drops a juicy note about a new band that he's got coming up, and that'll be exciting. He also does KQRS in Minneapolis. He does a show there called Gorman in the Morning. It features Steve Gorman in the morning. So you can tune into that if you want to. It's a pretty good show. Good music, good stories. It's always fun. Also with Steve on our drummer panel, Brian Mullins from the Cold Stairs. Brian's been on the show recently as well. And Brian is just fantastic drummer, super sweet guy too. You'll enjoy hearing from him. And the third member of our panel is Dylan Turner, co-founder of the band Parker Barrow, who they are on a tear right now. They are putting in the work and they're starting to reap the rewards. So Dylan is another just super great guy. This is a really fun conversation. I think you'll enjoy it. We'll split this thing up into two parts because we got a little long on it, but you'll enjoy every minute of it. It's a lot of fun. Before we get into that, I want to tell you guys about Bar Cart Co-op. Bar Cart Co-op is a collection of friends who produce content for the whiskey enthusiast with shows like Distiller's Talk with Alan Bishop and Christy Atkinson. They'll talk with distillers from across the country and around the world about anything and everything in terms of distillation. Alan also has a show called One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute. If you're a distiller and you have a question about distilling, guess what? You can ask Alan and he can give you a great answer. Alan also has a show called If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. If you're into the paranormal and the unusual and the spiritual, this is a show for you. Not a whole lot about whiskey in this show, but it's a very interesting show. Fascinating guests and some incredible stories. Tune into that. My Whiskeyed In with Pat, Mike, and Mitch every Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central Time. My Whiskeyed In is where craft whiskey is king. Be sure to check them out. They have some wonderful guests, some fun tastings, and the people in the chat are always super cool as well. David Levine has Whiskey in My Wedding Ring. David has a podcast where he will interview distillers. He also has a blog where he will do reviews of whiskey and other spirits. So that is always fun stuff. As for our show, Bourbon Turntable, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, smash that subscribe button. You can smash the subscribe button on the podcast platform you're listening on as well. Smash. So speaking of smash, we got some guys that can smash some drums, and we're going to talk with them here in just 1 second. So be sure to tune in for this week. If you smash that subscribe button, then you will not miss next week's show either, and you will not want to miss it because there's some really cool stuff in there. So we'll get into a lot of very fun things about these guys, their backgrounds, get into some technical stuff, and then talk about who their favorite drummers are. And there's some no-brainers on the list, but there's some surprises too that I think you'll enjoy as well. So let's get going with Steve and Brian and Dylan, and let's talk some drums. Hi there. Welcome to Bourbon Turntable. This is the show that blends the love of music with the love of whiskey. Tonight, we've got a really cool show because, who's the coolest guy in the band? It's the drummer. And we've got three of the coolest that I know and some people that I'm very fortunate to know, both as musicians and as friends, and got a lot of respect for what they do. And I'm going to try to guide them through a conversation about their favorite, most influential, most respected drummers. So this will be a lot of fun. So before we get into that part of it, I do want to make sure that everyone gets a proper introduction. So I'll start out with Mr. Steve Gorman. Steve, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, thank you very much. I'm just getting to know this little special sample you sent me.
Yes.
As I live in Minnesota now, I of course poured it into a tiny Hamm's beer glass because, as we all know, Hamm's was bred in the land of sky blue waters. I felt it was only appropriate.
Well, it fits. It fits. My glass, I don't know if you can see it or not, has an etching of the. Well, I guess it could be a Black Crowes album cover, but it's like the center piece for a 45. And this is whiskey that we're maybe sipping on, Buzzard's Roost.
Very nice.
Finished in toasted French oak. So I think you guys will enjoy that. But you had a birthday recently. Happy birthday, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
Still,
I'm 60 as of Sunday, and that doesn't bother me in the least.
Yeah. Well, cheers to you, sir. Happy birthday.
Cheers.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Steve.
Now, Steve, as you all probably know, is a co-founder and the real drummer for the real Black Crowes, not the current touring cover band going by that name. And if you need any proof that it's not the same without Steve, they ain't playing any Led Zeppelin tunes on this tour.
And no, it's fine. It's fine. Things change. That's the old David Mamet film. Things change, and they do.
You do. But you're doing pretty well for yourself. Trigger Hippy and Bagman, and let's see, we got Gorman in the morning.
Wow!
Look at that. Yeah,
very impressive.
And I think that's pre haircut.
Yeah. I butchered myself a few.
Then there's haircut, and now there's it's kind of somewhere in between. So
it's trying to grow back. My hair still grows like shrubbery. It's just like every 4 weeks I got to do something about it. So recently I've discovered for the first time in my life there are products you can buy that you put in your hair, and then it gives it a little of that natural curl that you wish you still had. So who knows what's going to happen.
Modern medicine.
Amazing.
Hey, and let's not forget, best-selling author, one of the finest rock and roll books out there.
Well, thank you, sir.
Tell us about. We're going to ask each of these guys, but tell us about your drum kit.
My drum kit is either a 4 or 5 piece kit, which means I either have 1 or 2 floor toms. Mm-hmm. The second floor tom, when I go to the 5 piece kit, more often than not serves as a place to put my beer. I keep it pretty simple. Hi-hats, ride cymbal, 2 crashes. That's always there. Mm-hmm. On occasion over the years, I'll throw in a cowbell, maybe a 3rd crash, just because I don't know. I feel like it might inspire something new, but in the Black Crowes and then in the bands I've formed since, and then even more, especially if I'm sitting in or playing with somebody else, my job is just to make everyone else better. And the more drums you give me, the less chance I'm going to have to do that job. Because I'm like any other drummer. You put me in front of a 28 piece kit, I'll use them all. Right. I mean, it's just going to happen. Sorry. I have sat behind giant drum kits and I just go nuts. But that's not what anybody else on stage wants that I play with. So I keep it very simple.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Sure.
Brian Mullins. Brian is in some random hotel in Illinois. I don't know if he's been taken captive or if we need to Call
Pretty
the SWAT
much.
team.
Yeah. Well, maybe we could start a GoFundMe for the state, Illinois. Maybe get it a mountain or something. It's a pretty desolate place. Normal Illinois.
What town are we talking about? What town are you in?
Normal, Illinois.
Normal, Illinois.
Got it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah. He's dealing with hotel Wi-Fi, so that's always nice.
Yeah,
it's
great.
A mountain would be great. A slope would be helpful.
Yeah.
Gotta start somewhere. A low digit grade. Anything.
You're either flat or you're falling off a building into the river in Chicago, I guess. Brian is, as I said, drummer for the band The Cold Stairs. They've got their most recent album is The Southern Part 2. It's fantastic stuff. There's Brian hard at work. I believe that's at Boca Lounge in Evansville.
What is that kit?
All right, so Brian, say it again. Tell everybody again what your drum kit is.
Yeah, that drum kit right there, it's a Gretsch USA custom. I think it was built around 2012. I bought it used from Forks in Nashville. And the previous owner was Willie Cam2, and he was the original drummer for Buck Owens. So obviously he got that kit way post Buck Owens. But so a little bit of history there. And it's a nice kit. I had some work done to it. But...
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. All right, Brian, thanks for being part of this show. I think this is a lot of fun. Dylan Turner, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, Kevin?
Hey, Dylan is the co-founder of the band Parker Barrow, and there he is with his lovely wife and my adopted daughter Megan. She's such a sweetheart. You guys have been touring like madmen, though. How many dates have you guys played this year?
This year, I don't know how many this year. We just wrapped up a nice little 66 day run. Jump back and forth across the pond a couple times. So just loving every chance we get to do it, man. It's a blessing every time. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Back on the road August 29th in Evansville at Mojo's.
That's right. Yeah.
And August 30th at the Shed in Maryville, Tennessee with the Kentucky Headhunters.
Yeah, for sure. So nice. There. So we're excited for that.
Yeah. I will be there, so that'll be fun.
Even more, even better.
You guys have been recently releasing some new music, a couple of new singles this summer, so that's been exciting. What else is coming up next with it?
Got an EP coming out in November, which will kind of be like the first half of our record. That'll come out probably early next year, springtime, something like early spring. But just trying to get it out as much as we can, balancing the studio stuff and the road stuff. But, it'll come out slowly but surely.
Well, you guys are putting in the work. That's for darn sure. So your kit, tell us about your kit. What do you play?
My kit right now is a Ludwig Centennial kit. It's kind of like the Bonham shell pack, big 26-inch kick and the big toms, 1 up, 2 down. Couple splash cymbals and a ride, hi-hats. Kind of like Steve was saying, keep it simple. If you put too much out there, start swinging at stuff that doesn't belong, and it just doesn't work out good. So that's it for me.
Yeah. Well, one other thing, Brian shared this photo with me. What year was this, Brian?
I think that was 2014.
2014.
Where?
LAX. You were so thrilled, dude.
Sure I was. Look at me.
Yeah.
Once you found out I was from Kentucky, you warmed up a little bit. So it was wonderful.
Very nice. At least I'm rocking the Orioles shirt.
Yeah. Brian's telling me, he said, Steve just looks miserable in that photo. I said, he's an Orioles fan. He's used to misery. He's a Titans fan. He's used to misery.
I can share the misery of being an O's fan as well. So
the Orioles it's the ultimate bait and switch. You give me the 70s, you give me the early 80s, and then you put me in the desert for 40 years.
That's right. Dylan's a Maryland guy. That's right. You're originally from Maryland. That's right.
Yep.
Okay. Well, great. Let's just dive right in. Let's start talking about drummers. And Steve, I'll start with you. You can put this in an order 5-1. You don't have to. It doesn't matter. The point's the discussion. So
I'll go chronologically.
Okay, that works.
So anybody who's ever had the misfortune of sitting with me talking about music when I've had at least one drink knows it all starts with Ringo Starr with me.
Mm-hmm.
I was 6 years old in 1971 when one of my older brothers, Tom, in an effort to get me to stop listening to the one Bee Gees album that I owned, handed me 3 Beatles albums. And one of those albums was Help. And I put it on. And the first time I ever heard Ticket to Ride, I started to air drum along to that first group. And I had never seen air drumming. Therefore, I invented air drumming. I just started going. And it sounds like a bad scene from a horrible Cameron Crowe movie, but I knew from that moment, like, oh, I'm a drummer. I really felt that. I didn't play drums. I'm a drummer. Whether I do or not, I am one. Like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I, sincerely just never thought twice about it after that. When people would say, what do you like? I play soccer and I do this and I'm a drummer. And they'd say, oh, you play drums? I'd go, no, but I'm a drummer. It was my little weird 6-year-old's way of carving out my own little identity.
Yeah. As
the youngest of 8 kids, that was the first time I ever felt like, hey, this is my thing. I grew up in a world of hand-me-downs in everything, not just clothes, but everything. Like, leftover food and TV shows, like anything cultural, anything in my life I had 7 people in front of me telling me what I should do. And so drumming was the thing that was mine. And I figured that out right away. And it was sincerely listening to Ticket to Ride. And I still remember it very clearly, just that feeling of, oh my God, this is it. So, and thank God it was that and not something else, because Ringo, as it turns out, is a pretty good drummer.
Yeah. Yeah. Any particular favorite songs from Ringo as a drummer?
Oh, so many. But the mid-'60s stuff, Ticket to Ride was one of the first where he really took something to another place. But 66, 67, 68, he just did things that nobody in a rock and roll band had really done before. He just got so out there, so creative. Rain, She Said, that Rubber Soul-esque era. Like 66 is really that, and obviously that's when the Beatles went from we're writing pop songs to we're just writing songs.
Right.
But if you listen to the Rain track from the one they released a few years ago, where it's the actual speed they recorded it, because the version of Rain we've all heard is slowed way down. It was recorded. It sounds like a punk rock song. And he's just blasting through it at a Ramones breakneck pace. It's pretty incredible. And then all the way through the end of the Beatles, I Dig a Pony. If you watch especially the Get Back documentary, I Dig a Pony. Those parts are so simple, and they're so rudimentary, and they're so completely what's needed at all times. I mean, he never, ever overplayed. And then you break down a song like Something, the George Harrison song. That's an insanely orchestrated drum part, but it somehow makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
He's just a total taste and swing and feel. Doesn't even know what he's doing. Doesn't know a 6 roll from a Swiss roll. Doesn't matter. He's in the best band ever with the best songwriters ever, and he's making them all happy. That's kind of that's the billboard for Ringo Starr. Yeah. Those 3 guys were happy with what he played. That's kind of all you got to know.
Yeah. Dylan, any thoughts on Ringo?
Yeah, I mean, Ringo's definitely on my list for sure. And Steve touched on it a little bit. Just like, for me, one of the first songs I heard from the Beatles was Come Together. And, the verses in that song, it's just so stripped down and simple. It's like when you're able to do basically nothing and make it sound and feel as good as Ringo can make it sound and feel. Mm-hmm. I think that is a true testament of a great drummer, is when you don't have to do all of the stuff to have the eyes go to you. And, I just have such an appreciation for the choices that he made in drumming and shaping the sound of the Beatles. They're the Beatles. He's a Beatle. So, that goes a long way. But, just his ability to understand groove and make everything feel right going on around him. And then, of course, with like all of the left-hand lead stuff and just his natural way of playing, the way it just sounds so different than any other drummer out there. Like you can listen and you know when it's Ringo. It's so distinct. It's so unique. So I've always appreciated his drumming immensely, and just love everything that he's ever laid down. It's great stuff. So yeah.
Brian, any thoughts on Ringo?
Yeah, absolutely. In the Get Back documentary, I just thought it was so impressive the way Ringo was present, paying attention to what was going down, not bored, not visiting with his instrument, not noodling, not making any noise. And when he was playing, his volume was like, where they're just sitting around with their guitars. I mean, that's not a drummer, that's a musician. That's just and everything that Steve said. And I was going to say this about Steve's playing when I get to my list, like Steve never plays anything stupid or silly or regrettable. Not live, not on the recordings, and I guess obviously he, with Ringo being such an influence, that's where that came from. So that's cool to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You haven't heard all the outtakes.
Well, let's Dylan, let's let you start. Let's go with your first one on your list, or one of the ones on your list.
When you asked me about this, and I took a minute to think about it. Obviously, as a drummer, you have your list, but I think it starts when you're talking about at least rock drumming. You can't really have the conversation without mentioning John Bonham. I've always said, if I could travel back in time, the first thing I would go and do is be able to go and sit behind him and just hear his drum kit in the room, the way it sounded live when it happened. Because I imagine it had to be just a undescribable experience. You hear the stories about, the thunderous roars and all of this stuff. And, he's kind of always been my number one. I've just fell in love with Zeppelin the second I heard the music. I think he's, a lot of, you'll always hear the thing about Bonham and it being sloppy or whatever. But if you listen to like those isolated drum tracks and how melodic his playing was, and like when you strip everything away and hear the intricacies in his playing, it's just like, it's unmatched for me. It's just, there's so much power. There's so much finesse. As far as like, I'm not a very technical drummer. I really have no clue what I'm doing. I'm just swinging at stuff. But when you listen to Bonham, he's so technical and so precise, and it's just like, it's beautiful playing, and so powerful. I think it was Buddy Rich maybe was saying, one of his quotes is like, the main job of a drummer is to supply enough energy for the rest of the band to play better than the band plays, better than they're able to play.
Right.
And, I can only imagine energy that had to be felt on that stage when Bonham was hitting that kick drum and those triplets came flying out. Like, I think it's just got to be unmatched, the energy he was able to create. So definitely a firm place for me with Bonham at number one. So yeah.
Yeah. Brian, thoughts on John Bonham?
Yeah. Like Dylan said, I mean, I think he's got to be everybody's number one. I went a totally different direction because I knew that someone else was going to have him for number one. I mean, it's ubiquitous. But if you haven't heard it, the Paul McCartney version of "Beware My Love," with the Wings song, with with Bonham on the demo version. I mean, it's so good. I just found myself laughing. Like each note, each fill in is more badass than the one before it. Somehow, I don't understand what touched him to make his groove like that. And you know who it is instantly. I love that in players that have a voice that you can instantly recognize. And yeah, we all know.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that track because the first time I heard it, and I have laughed listening to John Bonham more than any other drummer. He makes me laugh all the time.
Yeah.
Because there's such, even like a song like Night Flight that fills in and out. They're just so like, what's the word? Whimsical, and it's like, it's almost like, isn't this funny? Like,
yes. Yeah.
That I can just do this. And the live versions, How the West Was Won, Bring It On Home. When they go to the middle jam, all of Jimmy's the call and response, Jimmy and John, that stuff is so, it's full of life, but it's always humor. I really always heard humor in his playing. And I always said, like, he's playing like a guy who's never played before, but he has all the, he has it all, but he's like, isn't this great? Oh my God, I'm finally doing it. Like, that's what you feel, that energy from him. I mean, he's my number 2 after Ringo. And I didn't listen to Zeppelin much as a kid growing up at all. I didn't really dig into Zeppelin until I bought my first drum kit, and I got a late start. I was 21, but I had heard Zeppelin my whole life. But when I was first time ever, like, putting on the headphones and really digging in, it connected with me. It was the first drummer since Ringo where I went, oh my God, this all makes perfect sense. This is how they're supposed to sound. This is how they're supposed to feel. It was all right there. And that's just eternal. That'll never change. Like, I mean, that's my 2, Ringo and Bonham. And Bonzo's just, it's just the power of his restraint. I don't think ever gets enough attention. Clearly he's powerful, but what he could do versus what he does, because to your point, Dylan, it's just all right there. There's a musicality, there's a melody to it. You strip it away, you pull it up. It's just all it's just right. It's just right. And having played with Jimmy and spent time with Jimmy Page, and I would ask him about it, he said, oh, that stuff we weren't winging it. We would work on that he had to get it right. He wanted to play those riffs a million times before we would hit record in the studio. And
wow.
And as much as people think he's just bashing away, it's like, no. He is an absolute stylist and a perfectionist, and his perfection is the feel, which is you can't reproduce that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice and a lot of work to make it look that easy.
And fun too.
No, there's a bit of an obsession involved in that. Like, if you're gonna make it to feel that good, you got to work really hard to then let go of it. It's incredible.
Brian, give us one off your list.
Okay, yeah, this gave me a lot of anxiety. This is just influences for me, and just on any given day, so it could be a different list, but
sure.
It's just, there's just so many, but I just jotted some names down. I'm gonna go with Alex Van Halen. Just the identity, just the sound, it's him, and I just heard it at the right time in my life. That was the first album that I bought with my own money, 1984, and just the parts, the sounds, the tip of the hat to Bonham. Obviously, he was a Bonham guy. I think we're all Bonham guys, but Alex Van Halen, man.
Cool. Dylan, you Van Halen guy? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, sorry. I was just going to say one thing. I've never identified as an Alex Van Halen guy, but that's only because I don't, I only have a few guys, but I've always loved his playing. And I've said this a million times. If his brother weren't named Edward Van Halen, he would be thought of in the pantheon of all-time great drummers. He just happened to be, he just happened to have, Mozart in his family, not just in his band, but in his family.
Right.
And the world wasn't ready to coronate 2 Van Halens. So Alex got the bit of the short shrift on there. He's absolutely astonishingly great.
Yeah, I definitely think he's underappreciated, and honestly, I've probably underappreciated as a drummer. My dad always tells me he went to a ZZ Top concert, and Van Halen was the opener before anybody knew who Van Halen was. It was an arena show, and he shows up, and they're the first of 3 bands. There's maybe 30%, 20% of this arena's filled up, and he always tells me whenever we get, an opportunity to play with open for a band, he always says, go ahead, Van Halen moment. Cause he said they just came out and burnt the place down. And again, it all starts with the drums when it comes to that energy. Like, of course you got to have Eddie out there and, doing his thing, and you got to have the front man, but they can't do their thing if that foundation isn't solid.
Sure.
And then, it goes without saying, Hot for Teacher, that you can't, that it's just so cool. Like when you hear that as a kid for the first time, you're like, that is insane. Like that, how is he doing all that? How does his drum kit sound like a motorcycle starting up? You know what I mean? And it's like, it's so neat. So I will admittedly say, you know, I probably have underappreciated him as a drummer over the years, but can definitely, you know, see why he would be on your list. And I think it's a great name to bring up, and so glad you did. And definitely will give me a chance to, you know, think about it and go and listen, you know, a little closer to some of that stuff. So yeah, great drummer, you know, and just part of the story of rock and roll. So very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Mean Street, that's one of my favorite ones. The one-handed, you know, 16th note pattern on the hi-hat. It's just so physical, and it just kicks ass the whole time. Snare sound and just the attitude and all of it.
You know, the Black Crowes manager, Pete Angelis, came from the Van Halen camp. He started his career as their lighting director, and basically he was their creative. He directed all their videos. He was a huge part of that band from the minute they got signed. And then he went off with David Lee Roth when Dave left. And to your point earlier, what your dad said, when those first two records came out and they were still an opening act, the stories Pete would tell us about their desire to absolutely destroy the headliner. Like, they went out every night. Like, you wanted us to open? Well, here's this is what you get. And very legendarily, they opened for Black Sabbath when Black Sabbath was falling apart at the seams, and they just destroyed them every night. And they went out with Journey of all the
right.
Great band, great players, but how do you follow a young, angry, hungry, excited Van Halen? It's kind of impossible to imagine.
No doubt.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty wild. And the Van Halen ZZ Top ticket would be pretty cool.
Yeah, that wouldn't suck.
Pretty cool. That would not suck. Steve, who you got next?
Very personal choice, but it was the band that made me decide to play music, and then the drummer that I didn't appreciate till many years later is Bill Berry from REM. And I'll just say, one of the weirdest drummers you can name. I put him up there next to the early REM records and the early Devo records. Alan Meyer from Devo. Try to play that. Good luck. But Bill Berry, similarly, the EP Chronic Town and the first album Murmur especially, there are just songs like Pilgrimage or Wolves Lower where you sit there and try to play them, and the parts are so all over the place and they're so specific. And then songs that you hear a million times and then finally decide to play, it's astonishing how fast they were. Whatever your BPM, you think it's, that's about 86, and it's like, or 112. Like, it's just, that band had such a bizarre alchemy, in those early days especially. And REM is, as I said, the Beatles are why I love music, and REM is why I play music. Because I saw them very early in the club days, before they had records out, and I followed them through the 80s as they grew a little bit. And that was the first attain of, like, I said, maybe I could do that. Like you see a band in the club for the first time. I was 17 and I was in a rock club, and I was like, oh, wait, my life was always like, you could never really do that because you just see arena acts, or you see, Earth, Wind and Fire in the Sgt. Pepper movie. You're like, I could never do that. And then you're in a club and you see a band that's cool, but not that great. And you're like, oh, well, hell, I can do that. And so REM was my portal to actually considering doing it. And the more I got into my own drumming, the more I look back and went, man, Bill Berry he doesn't sound like other drummers. He's a very unique orchestral drummer, writing parts. And then I found out years later in talking with Mike Mills, he said a lot of those early songs, we recorded them and Michael Stipe wouldn't be there, and we never knew what he would respond to. So we would record demos as if they were all going to be instrumentals. And I went, well, no wonder he's playing all those weird parts. He's just trying to fill the sound,
Yeah.
And I was very pleasantly surprised to admit to myself one day, like, oh my God, so much of his drumming is stamped into my brain I didn't even realize. But like, especially the ride cymbal bell stuff, the off-time kilter stuff he does on all those 80 records, that's where that came from. So Bill Berry is another. That's my third guy on the list.
Yeah. Now, Bill Berry.
Sorry. I'm going to do 3A because it just reminded me. As much as I love Ringo, if you listen to Wings Over America, the Paul McCartney and Wings live album from '76, Joe English is the other drummer that everything he played stamped into my brain without me realizing it until many years later. And I suddenly realized, oh my God, all my turnarounds and all my little incidental fills, I thought they were Ringo. They're actually Joe English. Who knew?
Wow.
So anyway, go listen to Wings Over America if you want to hear the best Paul McCartney band ever and the best drummer he ever had, not named Ringo Starr.
Not named Ringo, yeah.
And I love you, Abe. It's just what it is.
So real quick on Bill Berry, because I was a big REM fan, back from Chronic Town forward. But that is, of the guys we've talked about so far, that is a guy that you don't necessarily play like.
Not at all.
Right? No. Right? Very different style, but still that influence is there.
No, I rip him off in ways that nobody else would know about. And I would also add to that list Stuart Copeland. I don't play anything like Stuart Copeland, and I'm endlessly ripping him off.
Yeah.
But only I know that. Only I can point out
that's the best way to rip someone off.
Same.
That's me poorly doing Stuart Copeland. And people are like, that's a really cool, unique part. I'm like, well, yeah, it's like when you put a weighted vest on Michael Jordan, he plays a little differently.
All right, we'll come back to Stuart Copeland maybe in a minute. But Brian, thoughts on Bill Berry and REM?
I'm not super familiar. I just know the hits. He's always sounded great. I know he was an integral part of that band. And I know he left. I'm not sure when, but when did he leave, Steve? Was that like late 90s?
Yeah, 97. So they started 97. In 80. The EP came out in 82, and then it was an album a year for a long time. And then they were at their commercial apex when he stepped out. He had some health issues and just
he had a stroke or something, right? Yeah.
And but he also wrote some. I mean, he wrote "Everybody Hurts." They were all writing together, but he was a guy that would bring in a big part of the writing of that band as well. So beyond his drumming, they were the ultimate four-headed monster band. But yeah, after he left, it was very different. They still made some good music after he left, but just the chemistry is everything, and they had real chemistry, and so it was very different after he took off.
Yeah.
I got to check some more of that out for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Dylan, any thoughts on Bill Berry? REM?
I'm also not super familiar with the stuff, but like hearing the hits and now hearing that, I didn't realize that he wrote, Everybody Hurts. That's probably one of their top 2 or 3 songs that they put out. As far as, if I looked it up on Spotify right now, it probably pops right up. But
sure,
that's neat. I do a lot of writing for my band, and it's not always that that the drummer is in that part of the band. So that's very neat and encouraging for me to go check it out. But the stuff that I do know of REM, it's always seems like he's serving the song, he's serving the band, that whole thing going back to the energy and just supplying what the band needs. Like Steve, what you were saying, if the band's happy with what the drummer's doing, the band's going to be good, So
yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to go and listen to some of that REM stuff because I'm not super familiar with it. Just the stuff that you hear on the radio growing up and that kind of thing.
Well, if you go back to the beginning, the EP that Kevin referenced, Chronic Town, came out. It's 5 songs in 1982, and then the first album in '83, Murmur. If you just listen to those, there's 5 or 6 tracks where you'll go, "What is this guy doing?" It's just like, but it's perfect. It makes perfect sense. But then you think to yourself, where did those parts come from? It's great, really good.
Yeah, nice. yeah. At least go all the way through Life's Bridge Pageant or Document.
Oh, for sure, yeah. All the 80s. Just go through the 80s REM. It's funny because I was a fan early on. When you say REM, most people you think 90s, and I'm like, oh, I missed that. I'm an 80s guy. I'm like old. I was in the 90s. I was too busy to be like obsessed with another band. I was kind of in a bubble. And then I've just in the last 5 or 6 years gone back and really listened to those 90s records, and I'm like, hey, right on. They were still great.
Right.
But the 80s is my sweet spot.
There's kind of the era before you could really understand what Michael Stipe's Stipe was singing. That's when it was really, really good. And then once
well, his vocals were like another instrument. It was he wasn't enunciating, and he really didn't care. The lyrics were just there to prop up everything else. It was an interesting. I mean, they were incredibly unique in the '80s for sure.
Yeah. Dylan, who's next on your list?
So next on my list, I got to admit, when you asked me to do this and you kind of put the whole what we were doing and how it was going to go down, I got a little bit of heartburn over this next one because I just, I'm just going to do it and rip the Band-Aid off. But my number 2 cemented for the rest of time is none other than Steve Gorman. Absolutely blown away by.
I'm sorry, I got to take a leak. I'll be back.
And I'm not gonna. I won't. I won't go on and on. But the Black Crowes has shaped everything that I've done musically, and especially those first 3 records. I can listen to those first 3 records if I had to go to Mars and I could only take 3 records, I would take those first 3 Black Crowes records with me and be perfectly happy. And honestly, Amorica by itself, I could listen to for the rest of time. I think it's a perfect album. I think it's a perfect record. And there's nobody who lays it down like you. It's a different feel. It's a different vibe. And it's absolutely my favorite. You're my favorite drummer to just sit down and listen to. I could listen to you play all day. But yeah, I won't, like I said, I won't go on and on, but I genuinely love, your drumming and what you add and what you brought to the table. And I mean, even to go as far as our last single we released, there's a line in it, "Take a walk with me through Mr. Crow's garden." Mr. Crow's garden, when I found that was what before the Black Crowes and that, you were there from the beginning. I discovered the Black Crowes, before I was able to kind of give a shit about, what happened and how it happened. And then to discover how influential you were in that, and honestly still are, there is no Black Crowes without Steve Gorman. So that's my number 2 for the rest of the time.
Well, I'll just be quick. Thank you. It's incredibly humbling to hear, and I've already thought of 11 jokes to make, but I won't because I know that's. Because that's very sincere, and I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, and I do. It's been cool so far tonight to get to hear you talk about your drummers and the way you feel about them and sharing that feeling, about you and your playing. So. Truly a treat.
Kevin, am I going to get a call tomorrow from a doctor with bad test results? What the hell is this? I'm starting to say I got a little sweat. What the hell happened here?
That's the what is it? The rooster, the buzzard.
The buzzard roost. Yeah, it's the buzzard roost doing it to you.
Is that
Brian,
okay.
Brian, any thoughts on Mr.
Yeah, more of the same. Steve was on my list also. I just started playing drums when I heard their first album. I knew he was from Kentucky, and I knew that he hadn't been playing very long when they made their first record. And that to this day blows me away. The maturity, the parts, just the note placement. It's just amazing to me that you hadn't been playing that long. And like I said earlier, he never plays anything that sounds out of place. I mean, it's just always the right part. Well played. He just always sounds so mature. All business. Love it. One of the best ever to do it.
I really appreciate that, but I do have to ask. I'm sorry. What part of Kentucky are you from?
Henderson.
Oh.
Yeah, almost Evansville. Yeah.
Man, I ate at that Taco John's in 1982 after a soccer trip, and I've never been back. It was the first time I ever had food poisoning. You know what I'm talking about.
That thing's still there, man. It's still there.
I know it. My son went to IU, and I'd be driving back and forth from Nashville to Bloomington, and to this day, I drive by that Taco John's, and I'm like,
wow.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, I'll just add this as a non-drummer, but somebody that loves and listens to a whole lot of music. Thing about Steve, and I think that Brian and Dylan kind of emulate this as well. It's about how the drummer and the drum part fits in the band and fits in the song and makes it all better. It's not about you trying to show what you can do. All of you have songs where you demonstrate your ability, your technical ability, your prowess, if you will. But the thing that stands out to me is you can be really strong and bring a whole lot to a song without taking over the song. And that's something that's pretty special to me.
Well, this is not a universal thing. It's not 100% accurate, but I've said this before when people talk about different drum parts. Generally speaking, the more I'm doing, the less I think of the song. It doesn't mean I don't like the song, but the best songs to me are the ones where all I think is, oh my God, I don't have a thing to do here. I just have to just play the groove. That's not always the case at all. But I mean, but as a drummer, there's a wonderful feeling when you're sitting in a room and a song's coming together and all you think is, God, the less I do, the better. Because I really am. I said, it was one of the first things I said. The job is to make everyone else shine. The job is to make the song the best it can be. And I'm guilty of overplaying. Trust me. I mean, especially live in the Black Crowes. And for a while, that's what we were doing. We were jamming like crazy. And I can listen back and go, but that was what we were doing at the time. And it made sense in that context. But generally speaking, I love Neil Peart, right? I'm not a Rush fan, but obviously you can't play this instrument and not be astonished at the audacity of Neil Peart. But I would never in 1 billion years think to fit so much into one measure. And it all works for that band. It's perfect.
Right.
But I'm just coming from such a different place.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all right, let's move on. But thank you guys both. That's genuinely very humbling to hear. Thank you.
Hey, that was a lot of fun. That is part 1. You will not want to miss part 2. If you listen to part 1, you're not going to want to miss part 2. So be sure to tune in. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your dog. You know, if your dog has a YouTube account and can tap with his little paws, Bourbon Turntable, search, let your dog watch the show. They would enjoy it. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Please leave your comments on how you think the show is going so far, who you were surprised to hear on the drummers lists, or who you were expecting to hear from next week. Until then, have a great week, and thanks for tuning in.